Hey, folks. Good morning and welcome to the first of many Kadena Campfires, a community-driven initiative where we want to give insights into what's happening at Kadena and come together with the community to chat. The space will also provide the chance to ask any questions that the community would like to know. And we're really, really fortunate today to have Emily and Doug with me here, who we anticipate will be regular guests on the Campfire. Doug is the Director of Engineering at Kadena, and Emily is the Pact Development lead. So please help me in welcoming Doug and Emily. And Doug, Emily, I don't know if you want to say something briefly about yourselves. My name is Tyler Bester. I'm the tech adoption lead here at Kadena Eco, and really, really excited for our first of our campfires.
Yeah, it's great to be back in the new year 2023 and really excited about everything we've got in store.
Yeah, same. It's shaping up to be a good year. I'm glad we're having these things and we can have a consistent dialogue with the community. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
So we're going to try and make this as community-driven as possible. So please feel free to chime in your hot takes or suggestions, whether it's campfire related or Kadena related. We'll try and get around to it. Excited that we already have so many folks from the community that are here. And so this is going to be a really, really fantastic event. The way we're going to do this format is we're going to start off by having a brief discussion of some recent crypto news. Then we'll move into Q&A. We have some questions that have been asked already on Discord and Twitter that we'll get to. And then we'll be also monitoring whether you comment on the stream via YouTube, via Twitter, via LinkedIn. We'll see those. Alternatively, there is a Discord channel for Kadena on the Kadena-Campfire channel. And we are seeing that. We are seeing comments as they come in. So that's another great place to ask questions. But first, moving on to a quick review of some of the news of the past week. In particular, wanted to discuss a little bit about this change in terms of regulations around staking with the Kraken settlement, closing the staking program for their exchange. I wanted to pass it over to Doug first to see if you had any hot thoughts as to this news topic and what it might mean for the broader ecosystem and Kadena.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. I was just kind of catching up on this news this morning, listening to some crypto community comments on it. Specifically, some of the stuff that I was listening to about the Kraken case actually sounded like it's not necessarily, if you really read the actual source material, they're not just trying to shut down staking. It sounds like it actually is genuinely trying to be an attempt at kind of preventing another version of FTX, where you have a centralized entity taking a bunch of funds and no one is checking up on what they're doing with those funds, and then they end up doing irresponsible things with it. I think we can all agree that that's bad. And we do want to make sure that various centralized entities aren't doing that. And so if that's the direction that the regulators are taking this, then there's no objection from me. If we take a step back for a minute and like not even think about the merits of like, should we regulate a particular thing more or less, and just kind of look at the broader landscape of the regulation, I really think that all of these recent actions, they just highlight what Kadena has been saying for a long time. If you go read the Chainweb white paper, we specifically called this stuff out. And I actually have it here. I'm going to read it because it was very, very prescient. It says, a potentially graver problem with proof of stake is the risk to the continued legal functioning of cryptocurrencies as predicated on the probabilistic censorship resistance of the original proof of work design, a feature that proof of stake designs fundamentally sacrifice by requiring distinct actors to stake funds in order to validate transactions. The exemption of money transmitter regulation to proof of work miners, at least in the United States, stems directly from the probabilistic nature of confirmation and the lack of distinct rights for a given miner in the system. I think this is absolutely the key takeaway here. We've been saying it for more than 5 years that, it's not saying that proof of stake is bad or that we shouldn't look into it. We're saying that we think proof of work has a better chance of being in the right corner when the regulators come in, and we're seeing them come in now. So I think that's pretty great confirmation of Kadena's approach, and should be something that the community is not scared of.
Fantastic. Emily, any questions or any comments from you? Read the news.
No, unfortunately, I actually hadn't seen the news that Kraken had done this, but it makes sense. I agree with Doug's points here. Yeah, nothing to add, really.
Awesome. So now we're going to just do a very quick round of Kadena updates. I'll start by talking on the Kadena Eco side. So I know, as it's been highly anticipated, we have a second cohort that will be announced soon. Soon TM. No, we've actually had a number of grants that have been signed and gone out, and there's been some key additional infrastructure that's coming in play, some new initiatives. I think all in all, there's been tremendous learnings both on the grantee side as well as on the Kadena Eco side from the first cohort. So we've been able to rectify mistakes that have been made. We've been able to make improvements to the process. And I think that the quality that's going to come out is going to be really fantastic and provide some pretty, I think, exciting opportunities to continue building on the Kadena ecosystem and filling in some holes that have been in place, and also providing some new opportunities. So yeah, I've been hinting on Twitter that if you sniff around GitHub, that you might be able to figure out a little bit about who some of that second cohort might be. But well, I'll leave that for the real packed maxis, if you will. In the meantime, though, I'm going to pass over. Oh, actually, one other thing to mention is we've received some questions and comments from community, both asking not just for more content being produced on Kadena, but particularly more content being produced for technical builders to help facilitate some of that adoption. And so really delighted that on Friday we'll be hosting our first of several more technically focused demos and AMAs with Thomas Honeyman, who has been building out Real World Pact. And so we'll have a more technical deep dive into a faucet contract as well as a wallet demo with some of the best commenting code out there. And later versions of these tech dive-ins will even cover a lending platform. So we have some really great content coming down the pipeline on the tech side. And so thanks to all in the community for giving really great feedback and engagement here. We're definitely listening and have an amazing content agenda planned over the next several weeks here and months. And now I'll pass over to Emily to discuss a little bit on what's new on the pack side of things.
Yeah, so this round is actually pretty exciting because we're about to release the 4.6 version of Pact, which includes some things that will help us build out a kind of new layer 2 story for Kadena and its projects. Namely, we're releasing zero-knowledge primitives for everyone to use. Kadena, as everyone knows, has kind of been working with this one place called Electron Labs for the past few months. And we've been working with them for proof generation, as well as internally trying to see what the story looks like in Pact for what zero knowledge looks like. And we've come to a conclusion, and we're going to release it to you. And we're going to have various tutorials and things coming out on top of this within the week. But I would expect fun things there. Two, we've sort of heard everyone's cries for, error messages in the blockchain, right? We kind of did some stuff to the send endpoints on the nodes that removed them for various reasons. And we are introducing a sort of new workflow for people who want to test out their transactions in the real world, as well as validate the metadata in their transactions. And you'll be able to simulate your transactions in a real world context as close as it can be to in production with this next node release. So lots of fun things shaping up. In the future, we're looking at what the binary release schedule is for Pact Core, sort of like a Pact v2. So expect that in the coming months, and we'll keep you updated as we do these campfires. And yeah, things are looking good.
Awesome. Doug, love to turn it over to you to for any updates on the engineering side.
In addition to what Emily said about Pact, I would kind of just want to highlight that we are focusing significantly on the developer experience. We very, very strongly realize that developers are the main thing that makes Kadena grow, the ecosystem. Oh, nice nod to Tyler's shirt. Sorry, I had to derail for a moment there. Developers, like, Kadena can't do all of the things that need to be done in the ecosystem. We just can't. It has to be an ecosystem-wide thing. And so our number one focus, on more of the kind of front end side of the house is enabling builders and enabling developers who want to build on Kadena. And we've seen huge increase in engagement in the last months, and we're listening. It might not always seem like it, but I think a lot of that is when all you're doing is just sitting there waiting for people to say things. It kind of like, it's like watching paint dry, and it might seem like things are going really slow. But we're working. These things take time. We do hear what the developer community is saying to us, and we very truly want to make the development experience on Kadena as easy and frictionless as possible. The stuff that Tyler just mentioned, that we have coming up with Thomas Honeyman, that's another aspect of this that I think we're all really excited about, getting better documentation and hoping to kind of bridge the gap between the people writing the code and the people building the documentation and the things that are helping other people write code. So this is a really key focus for Kadena, and we're really excited. Our front end team grew hugely in 2022, and can't wait to see where they take us and what they build in 2023.
Awesome. So now we're going to jump into the live Q&A section of today's discussion, which will be the lion's share of what we do here. So we have some questions that have been selected already from Discord and Twitter that I'm going to start with, and we'll try and get through as many of these as we can. So I'll ask for the three of us to try and speak succinctly to the questions. And of course, if there's one that really demands a longer discussion, we can devote time there as helpful. So first, where are the grantees of the cohort? The grantees exist. They haven't been announced. So they will be announced in the near future. I'll just sort of hint that, some of the grantees are going to include, for example, an Oracle and a bridge. And there's some other really interesting grantees as well. So that is coming together, coalescing into how the news is being released. Originally, we had planned on switching over to a rolling announcement for each of the grantees. But given sort of the slowdown in crypto news for project and building related in November, December, we decided to do at least one more announcement of a cohort. After that, we're going to discuss internally as to whether a rolling basis or a cohort base makes more sense. Welcome community feedback on that as well. Next question. When will Kadena be totally chain agnostic so I don't have to know anything about chains?
I'll take that one. Just a few weeks ago, we put out a new release of Chainweaver, and the big and most important thing that we included in that release is support for our new signing API endpoint called QuickSign. And this lays the groundwork for the whole community to be able to build things that are chain agnostic, because it allows wallets to sign multiple transactions in a single signing request. That is the key here. And this is something that it's taken us a while, but no other blockchains out there are inherently multi-chain. So we have to innovate from zero. There's no prior art on this. But if you want to be able to tell your wallet, hey, I want to send 5 coins, and you don't care which chains they're from, and your wallet says, ooh, I'm going to send 2 coins from chain 5 and 3 coins from chain 8. It has to get you to sign both of those transactions. Those are 2 separate transactions because chains 5 and 8 are 2 separate blockchains. And it has to get you to sign both of those. And it's just not a good experience if you have to do multiple signing requests for all of them. So this is absolutely essential. And we went through a KIP process. We got feedback from the community, and now Chainweaver has built-in support for it. And other projects, I believe, CADX's wallet has announced support for it, amongst others. So this is it doesn't sound sexy because we're building like the railroad here. Laying steel rails onto the ground doesn't sound sexy either, but it enables much more efficient transportation across long distances. And that's really what we're doing here. We're laying the ground rails for these kinds of apps. And now that this fundamental API endpoint is standardized and wallets have a standard to follow, wallets, dApps, everybody can build things on top of this. You don't need us. And I'm really excited to see what people come up with. So the future is here. But as I said previously, Kadena can't build everything for people. So we try to focus on the things that are the highest bang for our time and energy. And that's why we focused on things like this.
Awesome. We'll direct the next question towards Emily. Looking into the future, what kind of real-world use cases do you want to see on Kadena?
You're hunting for eco-grant ideas, huh? Let's see. I think oracles is going to be a big thing for us. And namely, as we start to sort of build our layer 2 story. A lot of people right now are getting hit by the fact that in order to transfer funds from one chain to another, we require a very strong cryptographic proof, which gives us, a decentralized way of transferring funds across shards. And this is in contrast to what other chains would do. In many other sort of sharded situations, either there is a centralized oracle sitting in between any two shards which can join data, or there is just a process which forces it. So something like a radix, for example, uses something like a slightly more centralized consensus mechanism where people vote on the order of things that happen between two shards and order the data, and then that sorting is kind of put in place, and then they order things in a sort of partial order between their shards. And in our case, we have just a decentralized way of doing this. Instead of deferring to a proof of stake with a sort of centralized leadership election process, you can do it without having to consult anybody except miners and search through history on chain. But honestly, like in the Radix case, for example, it's very quick. It's on the order of low minutes, whereas ours is on the order of something like, I think, 8-ish minutes on average, or at the very high ends, and maybe like 5 minutes on average for the normal case, at least under usual traffic. And like, if somebody could prove without a doubt, and provide a witness to those on-chain sort of outputs, and provide the Oracle data that would allow you to produce those tokens on another chain, maybe not tokens per se, but like some other derivative token, some kind of fungible V1 that wanted to accept such an Oracle service, then that would speed things up significantly. I would also like to see people writing alternative mempools. I would like to see us sort of decentralize the mempool process, and sort of take on the Bitcoin approach of having multiple mempools with multiple sort of minor incentives and various sort of transaction adoption policies like Bitcoin Nitro. I would also like to see people just doing general sort of services. Do a NodeMon, do a Ether scan for Kadena, do a any number of sort of just nice projects to have in the ecosystem that provide a good quality of life. But that's my bias. I'm sure there's other people out there who have different opinions about what they want to see. So.
Right on. Thanks so much, Emily. Got tons of questions coming in, so I'm going to try and see how many we can get through. I'll try and give a couple succinct answers. So a question from Avilio Peak: what is the key to onboarding tons of devs? And follows up by saying, good documentation, of course, but what else?
Money.
So I think, yeah. So yeah, grants paying folks for sure. Yeah, good documentation is a prerequisite. One thing the community help us with is on Friday when we do this technical demo and AMA. That's an awesome opportunity for folks that are technically inclined and have some interest in learning blockchain or crypto or Kadena and Pact, but haven't made first steps yet. Direct them to that live stream. Get them on there. Help us get them in the door in terms of explaining key concepts and then directing them to subsequent materials. So I think a large part of it is, of course, the documentation and making sure that the components and APIs and everything are ready and battle tested. And I think we're basically there. There's always improvements to make on docs, of course, but there's been tremendous work done by Randy's team and others to really accelerate that and make that in a pretty good place. Kadena.js, I think, is going to be another thing that we're going to start seeing more and more folks using for JavaScript developers. But at the end of the day, it's also about attention and eyeballs. So this is some place where the community can really help, right? If you have that friend that's technical, that's a good programmer, or a friend that has done some stuff in crypto already, or please encourage them and evangelize to them. I think that it's a collective effort too to get developers on board. But
I'll throw in a couple more comments on that. I think the key to onboarding devs is to solve real problems that real devs have. And good news, Kadena has done that over and over and over again in different areas. And I'll just highlight maybe two or three. One, we have a smart contract language that helps you avoid tons of the mistakes that smart contracts on other blockchains have fallen into and has caused people to lose money. I think this is absolutely key. Formal verification, all of this kind of safety thing, Kadena has delivered on and will continue to deliver on. Another thing, what else do devs want? They want scalability. They want to not get stuck with high transaction fees. Guess what? Kadena is the only proof of work blockchain in town that is scalable. And then I think what we need, as Tyler just mentioned, is we have to tell people, we have to get the word out there. And so this is where the community can help us. Keep re-emphasizing these things to people. Kadena has scalability, which will keep fees low, and Kadena has safety. My own personal favorite, safe transfers, ways to send money where you guarantee your money doesn't go to a black hole if you make a mistake typing the account. We have this. We have solutions to this problem today. These are very real problems that real people face, and Kadena has solved.
Awesome. Let's see here. I just had a question I wanted to highlight, but I have now lost it. Okay, we'll take this one real quick. Any news on Marmalade? What's the latest?
Well, I can opt out of this conversation. I don't know. People keep asking me, but I'm not sure. I defer to Doug.
I'll actually. So funny thing. This is one of the few areas where I just kind of let other people leave it in other people's camps as well. But what I will say is, Marmalade is really a standard for defining NFTs, and the standard is out there. And you can build NFTs using the Marmalade standard already today, and in areas where maybe there are features that you want that Marmalade hasn't defined yet, we have, and we can continue to talk to the community, get feedback, and add more clarification. But we've defined a very, very innovative NFT standard. And again, back to what I said before, we need people to build on it. I think that there's a lot of people just trying to rely on Kadena for too many things, and the community needs to take this stuff and run with it. and can't wait to see where they take it.
Right on. I want to make sure we answer some questions from Discord. So I'm going to switch over to answering some from over there. And I'll try to get it highlighted here in a moment. But this question from Secret Superstar: when can we expect a bridge to ETH? I'll just give a very quick answer to this. So first of all, there already is public code from Kadena Core that runs, shows how to run a bridge to ETH. Second, there's at least one grantee that hasn't been announced yet that has been working on a bridge to ETH that looks quite promising from a very top tier team in the Kadena ecosystem. And then third, it's an area that is of active importance to us. So definitely something that we're thinking about. Thanks for that question. Another question from Discord. Are there any plans to include a stablecoin in the Kadena ecosystem? So obviously we recognize the importance of that. We had a grant done to Lago Finance that was along that vein. Of course, that didn't work out how any of us had hoped. And it's something that we are continuing to give grants out for. So stablecoins are very important. And that's somewhat related to ETH bridges and such. But that's, absolutely in our purview and something that there's a number of people on the team that are spending a lot of time thinking about and working on. We hear you. That's an important one, and we're working on it. Let's see here. When and how will Kadena get more chains? Does it happen automatically, or does someone have to decide it manually? From Shadowski 666.
I can take that one.
Yeah.
I've talked about it before. It does not happen automatically. This is a manual thing. I also saw another question someone asked a few minutes ago about, like, is there a way that it can happen quickly? My answer there is we've done it once. We know how to do it, and we can do it again. We've done, when we launched, we had 10 chains, and after like 9 months or something, we forked to 20 chains. And there's like a particular block where new chains come into existence, and they get new Genesis blocks. It does take some engineering work, so it can't be done overnight. But we've done it once. We know how to do it, and we can absolutely do it again. So we will grow to more chains when there is a need for more chains. Every single chain has overhead. You're creating block headers. Right now, Kadena is generating 20 block headers every 30 seconds. No matter, even if there's 0 transactions, you're still storing this data that is contained in the blocks header. And if we jump to, say, 40 chains, then all of a sudden we're storing twice as much data for a network that isn't processing any transactions if it was empty, and it's not empty right now. So like there's really, it's not a good idea to go start consuming a whole bunch more resources before that is necessary. And other blockchains had serious congestion issues, and it comes in waves. So when we see that there is enough congestion to warrant more chains, we'll definitely add chains. I don't know when or how far into the future that's going to be, but we've done it once and we can do it again.
Perfect. I see a bunch of really cool questions from Hashing Club on Discord. I think we've already answered a few of these, namely one Oracle and Kadena, one ETH Bridge. I'm going to direct one towards Emily. When packed conference?
When packed conference? When Kadena conference, period. I suppose this is something that I would like to bring up with Kadena Core at some point when the market perhaps becomes a little bit easier on people and it's not just going to be a mob where we, get beaten. I would say when we reach a certain critical point, when there are multiple successful projects in the ecosystem, and we're looking at a good sort of token price that's relatively stable. I don't know, maybe, if we ever get back up to $20 again, I think it's definitely in the cards. Just keep in mind that, I've looked at running conferences before, and it's roughly, for a reasonably sized conference, speakers and, various kinds of amenities and things, it's about $500,000 in capital up front that you need before ticket sales. So on our end, it's a significant investment. And on your end, it's a significant investment of your time. So I would say definitely want and could see in the future, but you guys need to get it together and start coming up with those cool projects that, you know, that really take off.
Let's see here. I see another interesting question around. This is from Moshin1NA on Discord. I'm going to try and summarize it because it's a little too long to post as a text block. But basically, it's a question about network congestion during Launchpad sales. And they're commenting that one of the issues is around Launchpads using the Kadena API, api.chainweb.com, instead of using their own node and API. And that when the API gets congested, that can cause transactions to have issues. This is a really wonderful point. I guess less of a question, more of a discussion point. But yes, indeed, api.chainweb.com has not been designed for people to run their applications hammering that one endpoint. There are a bunch of endpoints, and you can run your own node and use your own API, and that way your application won't have any problems of a single centralized server getting overwhelmed serving requests. So the official recommendation is, if you are running an application on the Kadena network, to also run your own node and use that API, so that only your application is hitting that API. And thus, if a server is getting overwhelmed, it's simply because there's too many users on your application and not broader on the network, or someone doing like a DDoS attack on api.chainweb.com, which is kind of a lame but annoying attack. Really, it's intended to be a quick way to prototype and develop, and for casual users, not for production applications. Now that said, this is something we've been thinking about at Kadena Eco, that there have been some complaints around running your own node. It's really not very hard, but it is something else to manage on AWS or wherever you're going to run it. And so we have been exploring and looking at whether we can or ought to provide some more scaled up service that can handle a lot more requests. So that's something that we're kind of in active discussions on, and thinking about the trade-offs. Namely, it sort of does become a point of centralization, which is somewhat antithetical, but it's also very practical. So there's trade-offs here. But the best answer is run your own node if you have a high volume application.
Also, I'll add one more point on there. Tyler was pointing out the scalability aspects of particular infrastructure, but I'll also make a comment about scalability aspects of like the chains. We definitely have seen single chains getting congested because a particular activity is happening. And guess what? Every other blockchain has this problem too. Remember CryptoKitties? Ethereum became like nigh unto unusable back in the CryptoKitties craze, when there's only a single chain, and all of the activity has to go into the one spot. And we have a solution to this problem, which is our multiple chains. And in combination with the multi-transaction signing API that we just released, now you can imagine applications that are actually adaptive. Let's say you have coins spread across not all 20 chains, because 20 chains might be more than you want. Let's say you have coins spread across 5 different chains. Chain 3, some kind of ICO or some big event happens and it gets congested with transactions. People can write, not even wallets, people can write dApps that don't even hold your coins, but will sit there and look at chain congestion and will create a transfer that avoids chain 3, the congested chain, and sends money on the other chains where you have coins. We've just begun to scratch the surface of the possibilities here. And because we have this signing API, this can be done. You don't have to have the permission of wallet writers to build these kinds of tools. You can build them standalone, and they can make a call out to a wallet to get their transactions signed. So you don't have to wait on Doug or anyone else to build this tool that I'm talking about. Anyone can build it today. and I think it's going to lead to some really cool ways of like routing your activity around congested chains, and this is the future, and we're building the tools that will help people get there.
Right on. I see another question from Discord a little earlier about basically saying, why doesn't Kadena team more explicitly support projects like NFT projects? They specifically mentioned Kadena Mining Club and Hypercent, both of which I might add are projects that have received some degree of considerable support from Kadena and Kadena Eco. I would say here that there's great enthusiasm for these projects. So I personally am a huge fan of Kadena Mining Club. Talk with them a bunch. Have a very active Telegram chat. We've done some events with them around with Bitmain in particular that have been more focused at mining communities. And fractionalized NFTs in general, I think are a great use case for Marmalade and Kadena. And fractionalized mining ownership is a great way to ensure accessibility of retail to mining dividends. And also, I might add, I think as we see increasing lockdowns and crackdowns on staking, it'll be really interesting to see. We've seen that Bitcoin proof of work has stood the test of time in terms of giving off mining emissions that the government and regulators are comfortable with, and so I think Kadena is fairly secure in that regard. However, I think that it'll be interesting to see if that becomes a bigger advantage for us if staking ends up getting cracked down on much harder in proof of stake networks. I think Kadena Mining Club also has the largest secondary market right now for NFT sales on Kadena, as far as I understand. We monitor these projects very, very closely, and for a very large number of projects on Kadena, there is a Telegram group with Kadena Eco and Kadena Core where we're interacting with folks and trying to be as helpful as we can. Let's see here. There's another interesting question around Explore and Block Explore and ETH Scan. So there are at least there's XScan and I think one other. I think there are two other third-party block explorers that don't receive anywhere near as much attention and love as they should, and have some pretty significant advantages over our own. So we ought to figure out how to better raise awareness for those. I don't know if Doug or Emily have anything to add there.
I did not even know other block explorers existed for us.
There are a couple others. I'll just point out here, Etherscan, the one that everyone compares us to, they have a whole company behind just that thing. And I don't know, I haven't checked, but I wouldn't be surprised if their whole company that is just for this block explorer is maybe even bigger than Kadena. We're growing, so maybe that will change in the near future. But come on, people. Like, again, we're doing a lot of stuff. That block explorer was a spare time project by me. Let's compare the amount of sophistication that you can get with a single person spare time project versus something that has a whole company behind it. This is just going to take time. We need projects that are going to work on building these things. And this is something that Kadena Eco and Tyler and company are all the time thinking about how to foster.
Yeah, no, there's some features that starting your own sort of explorer might allow you to unlock too for the community. There are things missing from the explorer, things like mempool views, and other things that would put us at parity with. So there are other more mature blockchains that you can only get by running your own infrastructure. So being able to query things like the pending mempool transactions and what gets assembled into a block and tracking best candidates for blocks, that's all stuff that is available if you run your own node, but not queryable from other people's, if you're not running that node. It's not a public API. So if you did want, an alternative feature set, you could get it. Everything's there. You just need to go out and, read the APIs and start coding around it.
Right on. We have a question on Discord from Wizards Arena. Do you guys have any favorite projects or projects that you see mentioned a lot? Secondly, do any of you participate in the eco NFTs tokens? And finally, why or why not? So I'll say first on the, do you participate in any of the eco NFTs or tokens? Yes, I do. However, I don't in any cases where I believe that I have any inside information. So for example, I was talking a lot with Kadena Mining Club leading up to their launch. And because I felt like I had inside information about that, I didn't participate in their drop. But I would have. So that'd be one example. But I think there's plenty of others. And in cases where I don't have inside information, I've participated in IDOs. And in cases where I do, then I sort of wait until that information is public before participating. So that's how I'm approaching it, just to try and be really above board and ensure that there's no personal benefit received by knowledge of who's going to get a grant and when it's going to be announced, et cetera, et cetera. But on the flip side, favorite projects or projects you mentioned a lot. I think honestly, community is so in touch with this already. I think you folks do a great job of promoting projects on Kadena, and I honestly hear about a lot of projects from you. And in my Twitter DMs on, being added on Twitter, and just by scrolling through the various Telegram channels and Discord. So I think that, these are great ways of discovering projects. I've seen some mentions around Kadena name servers a lot. I would speak very briefly to that and just say that I think that anyone that's building on Kadena is going to be developing learnings and value to the ecosystem. And so, I'm very, very happy that we have such an active ecosystem. And I know that people are often finding that it's easy to criticize. But I think, ultimately not every project is perfect. Community interaction and engagement oftentimes does identify real problems and sometimes identify solutions. Other times they're unsolvable. But I just wanted to highlight that anytime projects are being discussed a lot, I think it generally is an indicator that they're doing something interesting and contributing to the ecosystem in a meaningful way. And I ultimately have tremendous gratitude for any builders in our ecosystem. I think sometimes technical mistakes are made. I think sometimes people come up with brilliant ideas. Regardless of whether a project works or it doesn't work, I personally try to support builders as much as I can, just because I know that building is hard and so valuable, and ultimately what's going to drive a lot of the value here.
That was a good answer. Nice job. I try not to play the game of favorite projects anymore. I mean, there are some that I'm really fond of, that I really like the people in, like Kitty Cads. I've had great interactions with them, good interactions with Thanos' projects. But largely, I don't think it's good to play favorites. Last time I played favorites, it was DocuSign, and DocuSign kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. So I feel a little cursed in giving my blessing to various projects. So I'm going to opt out of that one. Two, I try not to, for the same reason, participate in sort of NFTs or various token grants or anything like that. I feel like it's a bit of, insider trading is not the right word, but I know about things before they happen, and I feel like I have a little bit more interaction and like a finger on the pulse than most other people. And I don't think it's entirely fair of somebody like me to come in from core and interact with these projects as much as it is my right to go in through the front door and say, hey, I want to purchase these things in the same way that everyone else does. It just doesn't feel right. It feels a little skeezy to me. So I prefer to offer my advice when possible. And if people want to form advisor agreements, then I do that. So far, only one, and it's been the project formerly known as Cadex. No, it's mostly just to be as neutral and fair as possible, because we, the Kadena core team, don't really want to show favor to specific projects, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah, completely agree. We're not here to hold up projects and play favorites. We're here to build a platform that everyone can use to build new things. And if I was going to invest in these things, I would have to spend so much more time to like reach my personal bar of like how informed I would want to be to deploy my funds wisely. And so I just kind of don't worry about that. I focus on building things and enabling the ecosystem.
All right, so we are at our scheduled time here today. We went about 10 minutes longer than anticipated, just to ensure that we could get around to more of these really wonderful and fantastic questions. I want to thank everyone so much for tuning in. This is going to be a regular occurrence. We may have a rotating list of guests, but I'm sure you're going to see Doug and Emily up here quite a bit. And I know that we didn't get to all the questions. There were a lot of questions, I think, pent up because it's been a little while since we've had a YouTube live stream AMA. So you can rest assured that we're going to be having more regularly scheduled in the near future. And we'll try and get through as many of them as possible. So I really want to thank everyone for the really amazing engagement today. There's just such a wealth of high quality questions and people answering questions, even on Discord, especially. And just really amazing to see the positive energy, the thoughtful, constructive criticism, as well as some really great questions. So thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Kadena Army, you are what makes Kadena great, and can't wait to see you on the next one of these. Until then, ciao.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Cheers.